What is up, everyone? P-Don's here, and I am back with my first Gen 9 Draft League. Yeah, even before I've attended my first regional in Gen 9, I'm jumping into a Draft League. This is the SCDA, the Swift Code Draft Association. It's their ninth season, and I joined the Premier Ball division, which is their Wi-Fi league, and from what I understand, is one of their most competitive divisions. And I mean, you have Panda and Nightfront in it as well, so yeah, I think that's pretty competitive. Now, this is actually a new league for me, though I am definitely starting to see a bunch of familiar faces, but there are still a bunch of people who I haven't seen before, so I'll just give a brief introduction of who I am. Patrick, I'm the founder and manager of the Snowbelle Blizzards, this league. I'm the coach. I've qualified for Worlds in the past. I've co-managed Team Ireland in the Victory Road World Cup. I used to manage New York in USPA, though I did pass that off to my friends. I'm also a judge and a TO on the IRL circuit. I've had experience helping stuff of anime in both WBE and in the X9 Draft League. So if you remember any of the Golden State Glaceons videos, I helped her out a bit with that. And some of my draft accomplishments, I was the PDCL finalist. I lost brutally to Panda, but I played pretty well in that league. I also won the UDL Arcanine division, which was the auction division. I got Dragapult, Regieleki, and a bunch of other things, and just ended up winning the whole thing. And I've also made the playoffs in a bunch of other leagues. This is just a brief history of my team because it has more ladder and circuit routes instead of draft league. It was created as farm team in 2014 for NPA, which is the VGC community's longest running player draft league. We entered in NPA 8, we won in NPA 9, got to the semis in NPA 10, and got back to the finals in NPA 11. And because of that, I am now running with the name in multiple draft leagues. But yeah, the rules of this. So basically, it's Series 1 rules for VGC. So that means no Paradox Mons, no Ruin Pokemon. So we're not going to be seeing Fluttermane or Roaring Moon here. We needed to take 1A tier, 2 B tiers, 2 C tiers, 1 D tier, and 1 E tier. We then had 30 points available for 3 free picks. A being 20, B being 15, and so on until E, which is 0. And lo and behold, I actually got the wheel pick. I have never gotten that in draft, and I gotta be honest, I was pretty excited to get the wheel pick because this is my first Gen 9 draft league, and I had no idea what I was doing going in. So this allowed me to sit back and basically see what was going on, think about a bit of a strategy, maybe some things like a combo, and yeah, I'd be able to play the board as it appeared to me. Unfortunately, that probably meant stuff like Golden Go or Annihilate. I wasn't gonna get them. They're currently meta-defying Pokemon. They're showing up in a lot of online events like the Pokebros tours, the Road tours, and on ladder. So I wasn't getting those, but I would basically be able to set myself up for a good combo. And unlike other draft leagues where you typically have 11, there are only 10 Pokemon per team in this draft. And if I have problems down the road, I've got 5 transactions I can play with. So my overall approach, some of the rules and biases I developed for Gen 8 Dynamax leagues would have to be modified or discarded in order for me to have success in this draft. At least that was my initial impression. And the reason I say that is because with Dynamax, it was definitely advantageous to build your team around protecting it as much as you could. And if you could fire off a late Dynamax, that would be great. So, more so, stuff like Follow Me, screens, basically making sure you keep your Dynamax Pokemon on status, undebuffed, so it can just go in and destroy things. I kind of needed to make sure I stepped away from that. With the removal of max moves, the power level of this format is probably going to be lower than what I'm used to, so I do need to account for this. And the wheel pick, as I mentioned, it allows for combos. If you're able to take advantage of this, then you're going to be pretty successful. And honestly, I definitely wanted to fill cores, but especially with such a new format, I just wanted to get value. Like, I can definitely terror if I need to fill a core, so anything that I think can help me win, I'm going to prioritize instead of arbitrarily filling a core. And at this point, I sat back and waited, and there's one combo I absolutely wanted to try, and it actually fell to me. Yeah, Amarouge and Indeedee female. I was able to draft Mega Man X. So both of them are A-tier picks. Amarouge filled out the A I was supposed to draft, and then the Indeedee cost me 20 points. This does give me access to the only Expanding Force combo in Scarlet and Violet. Every single Mon that learned Expanding Force in Sword and Shield lost it. And when you got into Scarlet and Violet, only one Mon was given Expanding Force, and that's Armarouge. So you have that, you pair it with Indeedee-F, you have a spread Psychic Terrain boosted Expanding Force with the Follow Me support coming from Indeedee. So you take that, you have it off of a base 125 special attack. That is incredibly strong. The Amarouge also has stuff like Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, I believe it has Aura Sphere. It definitely gets Dragon Pulse, and I know it gets Energy Ball. And it also gets stuff like Wide Guard and Trick Room. So if I need Amarouge to set up Trick Room in an emergency, I can do that. But optimally, I would probably want it to be attacking, which is also why Indeedee is so good with it, because it does power the Expanding Force. It's one of only 3 Follow Me Mons in Scarlet and Violet, and it tentatively can also set Trick Room. Now, we are in a spot right now where Indeedee female is getting Trick Room via 5-star raids in Scarlet and Violet. It's the only way you can get Trick Room. As of now, there hasn't been an IRL event played yet that's been official. San Diego's in a few weeks, so we don't know 100% if that's going to hold up. Hopefully it does, because Indeedee is extremely strong for this team if it has Trick Room as well. But we are basically in a wait and see. But even if it doesn't have Trick Room, it's still able to give Follow Me for the Amarouge itself to set the Trick Room, and it powers the Expanding Force. And anytime you have Redirection, it's good. Anytime you have Follow Me instead of Rage Powder, you don't need to worry about any random Mon with safety goggles. So you know what's going off. Whatever strategy you wanted to do with the Redirection. So yeah, being able to grab these two, I thought was a great start to the draft, and it's a powerful core that while it does have its flaws, like if I run into a lot of dark types, it might be a problem. The offensive power that these two combine to provide has to be respected every week in prep, which gives me a good start. So the draft keeps going a bit. I kind of want Azumarill, but I realize it's probably not getting back to me. I have to wait 32 picks, and indeed it does not get back to me. So I was thinking about all the dark types that could cause this combo a problem, and I wanted a strong fairy type to kind of be able to pick up where Amarouge left off if it can't hit a dark type. I am also a little concerned about the dark weakness that both Indeedee and Amarouge have. So it gets back to me, and I am able to draft these two. Florges and Water Tauros. So Florges was one of my B tier picks, and the Water Tauros was a C tier pick. Now, if you're looking at the results of all of the tournaments going on right now, and you are looking a bit on ladder, there are a lot of dragons doing well. You have Hydreigon, you have Garchomp, you have Dragonite. In draft, there's even Salamence. I've seen Baxcalibur cut some events. Like there are dragons everywhere. So I definitely wanted a way to make sure I handle that. And also I wanted a way to deal with the dark types. And with a base 112 special attack and pretty good overall bulk, I feel like Florges was an answer to them. Now, I had the ability to take Gardevoir as well at this point, but I preferred the bulk here, especially because of terroring. If Gardevoir gets terrored on, you probably have a good shot to KO. If Florges gets terrored on, it could probably take a hit, and we could figure out what we're going to do from there. It also has a good support move pool if I don't necessarily need it to be attacking. Like Helping Hand, Pollen Puff can heal things. Got Chilling Water, which you reduce the attack, and all of a sudden its defense is being helped as well because it's not hitting as the other mons aren't hitting as hard. And it also has some other tricks that I might break out later in the season. Now, as for the Water Tauros, it actually does help out the Florges because its weaker stat is its defense, and Water Tauros brings in the Intimidate. It also helps to cover the steel weakness that Florges has. And also, we've seen throughout VGC history and draft as well, water and fighting is great offensive stab. With Raging Bull, I can actually break the screens that might slow down the Amarouge Expanding Force combo. And with Tauros and Amarouge, I actually have 2/3 of the Fire, Water, Grass core already. And also, as a general comment with the C tier, it might just be the way I was building my team, but I felt like the value wasn't what I was looking for there. And Tauros was one of the few things that I thought really stood out in that tier, so I was very happy to grab it. Alright, so with this, we have 4 good Pokemon at the moment, but I have 32 picks to go, and I have to figure out what I'm doing next. And honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I thought I wanted to go back to an old favorite of mine. We had some weather teams forming at this point. I'm still questioning the legality of Indeedee-F's Trick Room. It's totally legal now, but is it going to be legal the rest of the season? I don't know. And that might not be up to SCDA. It might be banned online, and I can't do anything about it. So with that, I decided to go back to my old favorites, Gothorita and Altaria. So Gothorita was a D tier pick, and Altaria was an E tier pick. And Gothorita in particular, I thought was incredible value because Gothitelle was in the A tier, and sometimes Gothorita, depending on the team, might even be better than Gothitelle. So with that, I pick up the Trapping, I pick up a Cloud 9 Mon, and if I want it, I can also start Parastrapping. Which, if anyone watched me with Gmax Lapras and some other Pokemon in Gen 8, yeah, it's fun. I can't bring it every week. There are some weeks where it's definitely not an option, but when it is an option, yeah, it gets the job done. Gothorita is incredibly bulky support with Eviolite, so I'll be able to get the Fake Out, the Helping Hand, the Trick Room off. And as I was mentioning, because of the unknown status with Trick Room in Indeedee-F, this will cover me if it gets banned online at some point, and make it so I don't have to use Amarouge to set Trick Room. Which, I'll be honest, if Amarouge is the only thing I have to set Trick Room, that's going to suck for me. The three Dark Week Mons, it does concern me, but with Gothorita specifically, given my previous familiarity with it and how bulky it can get, I felt it was worth the exception to add that weakness onto the team. Now with Altaria, besides the Trapping, besides the Parastrap and Anti-Weather with Cloud 9, it also gives me a Tailwind user. I get Haze, I get Mist to avoid the debuffing, I also get Feather Dance if I want to start dropping attack, and there are some other things that it can do that hopefully I'll be able to show off during the season. It's also 2/3 of the Fantasy Core, which pairs with Florges, and this bulk wasn't terrible in Dynamax, but I think 75, 90, 105 bulk in Scarlet and Violet is probably going to be good enough, even with a 4x ice weakness. And if necessary, I can always Terra the Altaria to get rid of the weakness. Alright, so the team I think is coming along well, but there are some things that I want to shore up. Like, for example, I think my team is very slow right now. I also think it's lacking a lot of physical attacking, with the Tauros being the only thing that's really a physical attacker at this point. So there were 2 Mons I was eyeing and hoping they came back to me. One of them I was especially concerned about, but both of them did come back. And that would be Forretress and Hawlucha. Now, Forretress was a tier E free pick, and Hawlucha was my second tier B pick. I was a little worried about Hawlucha because there was someone else who had an open B slot and looked like they could use a fighting type. And as it turns out, they did pick Lucario shortly after me, so maybe if I waited on Hawlucha, it would have been gone. But Forretress I was especially concerned about because I felt it was one of the best E tiers. It has the stats to actually do something, and I felt that it would be a very cheap pickup for anyone who's looking for a good steel type. So I was very happy this thing dropped to me. And honestly, with it, Scar and Bliss is out and Forretress is in. Basically, Scar and Bliss used to be, it used to be a VGC form even before Nugget Bridge, but I'm kind of dating myself here. But even before that, it was a combo where basically you had a lot of physical defense on the Skarmory and you had a lot of special defense on the Blissey. You'd swap them out and like soak up damage that way. This isn't singles, but I can do something similar with the Florges and Forretress. Florges has a very high special defense. Forretress has a very high physical defense, and they're also part of the same core, the fantasy core. So it's not a perfect 1-for-1, but they can kind of cover each other with their respective defenses. And as I was alluding to earlier, Forretress actually has a move pool to hurt things. Like it gets Gyro Ball, it gets Drill Run. I think it gets Ice Spinner actually, which that it definitely has some options. And it also gets things like Helping Hand, Struggle Bug, and 3 Weathers. So there are a number of ways I might be able to utilize this going forward. And yeah, it completes the fantasy core with Florges and Altaria. So it's nice to get that core in. Now as for Hawlucha, it's a fast physical hitter that I need it, and it also pairs up with Indeedee-F for Unburden. If I do proc the Unburden, I believe I have the fastest Mon in Scarlet and Violet pre-Tailwind. So, like, stuff like even Scarf Dragapult, I do not think outspeeds it. And I can use it in such a way that it's all-out attack. There are some support things I can do, and yeah, I can bulk up a Sword Stance. It has flexibility. And honestly, it's the third Dark Resist on a team that needs Dark Resist. So, Amarouge Indeedee-F and Gothorita not liking Dark type attacks that much, but I can throw Florges, Tauros, and Hawlucha in the way of the Dark type attacks, and they will eat them up. So that's pretty important. So, with the last 2 Mons, I had a lot to consider. Did I want to complete some cores? Was there anything that I thought was going to greatly benefit me? And is there anything that I felt was a weakness that I could patch up with these last 2 picks? And there were some things I was thinking about. If something like Appleton dropped to me, I might have taken it to complete the complete the Firewater Grass core. But one pick after I picked Hawlucha, Nightfront took Appleton, so that wasn't happening. Then all the other grass types that I would even think about all flew off the board. Like even Cactron got picked. Like it's a decent Mon. It would have completed 2 cores for me, but I was a little worried about its defense, so I didn't have it too high on my list. But yeah, all of these grass types kept flying off the board, and I realized I was not going to force the Firewater Grass core to be completed. I also thought I had 1 Mon that was pretty fast in Hawlucha. I had a lot of middling speed Mons, with Forretress being kind of slow, but the rest kind of in the middle. So I wanted to go fast and I wanted to go slow, if I could. And I actually was able to do this with my last 2 picks, which were Electrode and Greedent. With Electrode, it was a tier 3, it was a tier D free pick, so 5 points, and Greedent was my second tier C pick. Electrode is the fastest mon in Scarlet and Violet. It is even faster than Barraskewda. It is even faster than Dragapult. It is not going to be outsped naturally until we get some Pokemon Home compatibility, but that's for later. As for Greedent, outside of Torkoal, which is also a base 20 speed Pokemon, it is the slowest mon drafted, tied with Torkoal at base 20. So I'm covering both speed tiers with this. As with Electrode, it does offer speed control. I list Thunder Wave, but it does get Scary Face. It does have some other support, Taunt, Helping Hand, and some other things that I might be able to play around with a bit. And it does have a reasonable base 80 special attack. You're not drafting Electrode to sweep anything, but if it has the opportunity, it can get a hit in. So you know what? For a tier D Pokemon, you take it. Now with Greedent, I had a pretty big dark weakness, which I think I kind of mitigated. But I also have 2 mons weak to Ghost, 2 important mons in Amarouge and Gothorita. Indeedee-F can redirect the Shadow Balls because it's immune, but throwing Greedent on the team means I have 2 Ghost immunities, which, you know what, it's pretty useful. And it's also a strong setup mon if I pair it with Indeedee or Gothorita. Basically, it has the move pool and the moves needed to become a strong Trick Room sweeper. Like, obviously it has normal attacks, but it does get the Fangs, it gets Bullet Seed, I know it gets a ground move, I forget which one, but yeah, it does have what I need to do some sweeping if I get it set up properly. And with bulk of 120, 95, 75, it's going to stick around. So yeah, I was happy to close my draft with both Electrode and Greedent. I think they help glue the team together pretty well, to be honest. All right, so some of the strengths I noticed while putting this team together. Indeedee and Amarouge, they're not going to sweep every week, but if you don't respect it, you will probably be expanding Force Swept. So it does need to be respected every week. I'm not saying anything that nobody knows. This is almost as notable of a combo as Dondozo and Tatsugiri. So yeah, people are going to bring answers. I'm going to have counterplays to those answers, and if I can do that, I might be able to pull off an expanding Force Sweep. We'll see. Now, my team, I think, has a decent combination of defensive bulky mons, offensive setup mons, and mons that can force the issue if need be. And by force the issue, I mean put out a decent amount of offensive pressure immediately. Florges has a base 112 special attack with Fairy Stab, which is pretty good in this metagame. Amarouge is an offensive juggernaut. Tauros, like, it's base 110 physical attacker with incredible stabs. So, yeah. I like setup, but I don't think I'm reliant on it. Now, speed tiers here are a little slower overall, I think, but they do cover both ends. I have a Tailwind option, and I have 3 Trick Room options to take advantage of the slowness, including one with Psychic Terrain. So, there are going to be ways to stop me from getting Trick Room set up if I need it, and it's going to be up to me to play around it, but I think I do have the tools to do it, and I've got multiple modes on this team that my opponents will have to prep for weekly. However, this team definitely has some weaknesses, I think. And as I've been talking about, the 3 dark weaknesses aren't fun, even though I have 3 dark resistances. If I'm not careful, I could get in trouble. Also, a lot of my offense leans a little slower with some of the speeds. Tauros is base 100, that's kind of fast. Hawlucha is base 118. But outside of that, we have a lot of mons here that are like in the 60s and 70s, around there. So if something faster gets going, I could have some problems. However, the team I drafted I think also has decent bulk, so if they're not able to one-shot me, they potentially can slow these strategies down and give me time to recover. I'm not thrilled that I wasn't able to complete the Firewater Grass Core and the Psychic Dark Fighting cores, but at the same time, I don't want to force them. I would rather grab perceived value over cores, and you know, in Gen 9, I can always terastallize into a grass or dark type if I have to. And you know what, this goes for me, but this goes for everyone, I think. I'm definitely inexperienced with Gen 9 VGC, but it's something we all have to deal with. It's very possible this team I drafted might look good on paper to me, but because of how Gen 9 VGC plays, it ends up being absolutely horrible. I don't know. And I'm only going to be able to figure that out with time. Having said that, I think it's going to end up okay. The Indeedee and Amarouge is a known combo. I do have some cores. I do have some defensive and offensive synergy. So hopefully some of this still holds up in Gen 9, and I'm able to mitigate the inexperience of it. And in my overall thoughts of the team, it's a bulkier team overall than what I'm used to drafting. Like, I had a lot of success with Dragapult stuff in Gen 8. Basically just pushing ahead and trying to KO things with max moves, or if need be, slowing things down with G-Max Lapras. Like in PDCL, Code Red, Spectrier was an offensive menace, and if it couldn't do anything, then Lapras was able to actually do enough damage with its max moves to get me to where I need to be. I don't have that here, for the most part. It's a more bulky team with less offense than I'm used to. And yeah, offense is always important, but the overall power level of Series 1 and Gen 9 as compared to Dynamax, it made me have to consider more how to take hits rather than dish out heavy hits while making this team and doing the draft. However, I still feel like I have a way to break through walls if need be. And yeah, I don't like how I wasn't able to finish the cores, but as I've emphasized, I always want value over forcing a core. It's especially with terastallization, I can always turn myself into a grass type if need be. And yeah, I don't know where this team is going to be put in the power rankings. I'll be completely honest. Like, I see some good things here. I see some things I wish I could have done better. The only thing I can say for sure is I think I have the tools to win games with this if I play it well. And at the end of the day, that's all I can ask for. So hopefully I am able to play it well, and I'll be able to have some success this season. So thank you all for watching. I definitely intend to stream my sets on Twitch. Link to my Twitch channel is going to be in the description below. And I'm looking forward to competing in my first season in SCDA. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully Amarouge is as powerful as Mega Man X is in the X series. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.